The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. The apostles said to Jesus, "Increase our faith." The Lord replied, "If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you would say to this mulberry tree, 'Be uprooted and transplanted in the sea,' and it would obey you. Who among you would say to your servant who has just come in from plowing or tending sheep, 'Come here immediately and take your place at table'? Would he not rather say to him, 'Prepare me something to eat, put on your apron and wait on me while I eat and drink? You may eat and drink when I am finished.' Is he grateful to that servant because he did what was commanded? So should it be with you. When you have done all you have been commanded, say, 'We are unprofitable servants. We have done what we were obliged to do.'" The Gospel of the Lord. An interesting gospel reading indeed. Increase our faith, still just as relevant as it was for them 2,000 years ago. And then Jesus going on to tell that little story about the servant. Well, it was a good example to help people understand. But in reality, he doesn't see us as servants. He sees us as brothers and sisters, sharing his kingdom and being invited to be active participants. But the first reading today is a great piece. It's a powerful story about the life and the journey of a prophet. Habakkuk, an interesting prophet, he lived about 700 years before Jesus. So not too far from the time of Amos, the prophet that we've been looking at for 2 weeks, and then all of those prophets that we've looked at during the week, Haggai and Ezra and Nehemiah and Zechariah. All of those prophets who lived around that time, either just before the Babylonian exile or just after it. And all of them were attempting to bring hope to the people of Israel in the face of great challenges and great difficulty. Habakkuk preached in the southern territory, which was Jerusalem and the kingdom of Judah. Today, the territory that is owned by Israel and Palestine. It's a very powerful story. There's just 56 verses in the whole story of the prophet Habakkuk. One chapter having 20 verses, another having 19, and one 17. But he's very interesting because he is the 12th of the minor prophet. He is number 8 and the 12th are the 12 minor prophets. He's interesting because he's the only one that we see actually questioning God. He's saying, why? Why the circumstances? Why the issues? And in the first chapter, he's really dealing with the issue of good and evil. He says, "God, why does it appear that evil men or evil women seem to flourish in this world while really good people don't?" You ever wondered about that? And the rest of you? You ever wondered about that? Wonder about it all the time. It's a recurrent theme in our world. And then the second chapter describes God's response to him. And the third chapter is a song of praise, essentially a song of praise to God, saying, "Thank you for helping me understand some of these integral questions in life." So we look at the text, and in the text we've combined a part of chapter 1 and a part of chapter 2, attempting to summarize the whole of the prophet Habakkuk. In the first opening of the reading, How long, O Lord, how long? You ever felt that way? How long, O Lord? I cry for help, but you do not listen. A very common phenomenon. I cry for help, and you do not listen. I cry out to you violence, but you do not intervene. Why do you let me see ruin? Why must I look at misery? Why is there misery in our world? For you, gracious, benevolent God. Destruction and violence are before me. There is strife and clamorous discord. Wow, that's powerful. The same kinds of questions that we are asking God every day. He's a bold prophet, asking God, questioning God. What is your problem, God? Do you not care? Do you really not care when you see all of this unfolding in life? Surely you see what is going on. Why are you not doing something about it, God? Why don't you intervene? Why do you stand idly by while our people Israel are being attacked by one enemy after another? The Babylonians, the Perizzites, the Persians, one after another. Our country, our nation is being torn apart. Do you not care for us, your people? And all of these years later, we're dealing with the very same question. Do you really not care where our world is headed? The question came up in our small group just a little over a week ago, and the question was framed in this way. If God is eternal, if he knows everything, then why did he bring into this world that father of a 6-year-old child whom he abused? Not just when she was 6, but during those 6 years of her life. How do you answer? And when your friend who is not a person of faith asks you that question, how do you explain your God and that reality? God, do you care? How long, O Lord, how long? That is the eternal question, the forever question in our lives. But we tend to address it only when these maladies appear in our lives. We don't address it on a regular basis, but we certainly have to deal with that reality. When it becomes very personal to us, or when we are challenged on it, then it really comes to the fore, and how do we respond? Who is this God that I believe in? And then I remember the answer. The answer I was given all my life. From my youth, through my teenage years, into seminary. Don't question God. Did you ever get that answer? You're kidding. And the rest of you? Did you ever get that answer? Don't question God. He has his plan. He's bringing about his plan. You got that? Man, I got it all the time. It has got to be some of the most ridiculous stuff that I ever learned. Because tell me, please tell me, how can I have a personal relationship with somebody where I cannot possibly entertain or discuss or process or share the most critical and most important things in my life? About the death of loved ones, about the hardship, about the abuse, about the difficulties. How could I have a genuine relationship and not discuss them with that person? It's a big question. And here then, comes Habakkuk, asking all of these questions that we ask. And then in the second chapter, the Lord answers him. He says, "The Lord answered me and said, write down the vision clearly upon tablets, so that one can readily read it. For the vision still has its time. It presses on to fulfillment and will not be disappointed. If it delays, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not be late." Man, Habakkuk was excited about that. It's a lot of value. That doesn't answer all of the questions, but it certainly gives us a definitive perspective into it. What is the vision? What is God's vision for us in the world? How much time and energy and attention do we give to that? His vision. Whose vision is it that I am following? Mine? His? Ours? What is the vision? What is his vision for us? And I'd like to speak about, in the bulletin today you will read a statement which represents the building committee, the campaign committee, and the senior leadership team. It's a simple statement, and yet it took a lot of effort and a lot of refining and devising to, we don't put this in, we don't put that in, or whatever. We wanted to give you as much information as we could. We're completely stuck in our building project at the present time. Projected costs have gone way over our budget. The budget that we agreed upon. Naturally, all sorts of questions arise. I'd like to give you some of the basic answers to those questions. Here are some of the primary reasons that it has gone so significantly over budget. Number one, the scope of the project, which we began a little over a year ago, has grown significantly in terms of, from the conceptual drawings to where we are at today and what we were proposing, attempting to incorporate all of the many suggestions of our members. Secondly, we've had to incorporate a number of related issues as far as code compliance. We were not aware of all of those. Some of those were unforeseen. We've had to deal with issues regarding how do we anchor a new structure here and out here to this building so that we have a firm foundation and that we have a solid building for the future. We have additionally added costs because of all of the extra things that we had wanted to place in here to make it a beautiful building and to make it something that we would be proud of. And finally, we have the issue of demolition. The cost of demolition of all of this space that we are looking at, plus all of the related dirt work, changed the experience. And the next question, obviously, is who's to blame? We always have to, there's got to be somebody to blame. I'm that person. I am absolutely and totally responsible for this. Nobody else. Yeah, I've had sleepless nights about it and stress over it, but I am the responsible one because as your pastor, I invited you to go on this journey with us, to pledge your money and to pledge your support. I made an agreement with you based on the very best knowledge that we had, that we could bring this project to fruition at a budget of 4.5 to 5 million. And I'm sorry, cannot do it. So we are really stuck. I was shocked when I was in Ireland. Just before I returned, shortly before I returned, I received an email of the current projected costs. I know the members of our committee were shocked, and I have no doubt you are too. So where are we at? Well, we had a meeting last Sunday. It was the first time that we could gather all of the interested parties, and we met from 1 until 3. We certainly covered some of the issues, but not all of them by any stretch of the imagination. We don't have all the answers because we don't really even have all the questions. We're looking at all of the options, and we ask you to be patient with us while we attempt to figure this out. And there are 2 major questions. What do we want to do? And what does he want us to do? And how do we reconcile those realities? In other words, as the Lord said to the prophet, write down the vision. What is our vision? Do we have a singular vision or do we have multiple visions? We have had, but where are we? We would like to really continue deliberating on these issues. We would like to give you a report on our deliberations at the end of the month, on the weekend of November 2nd and 3rd, which will be the Sunday following the end of the month. We will give you a report on our deliberations. I'm not promising that we'll have a solution or anything like that, but I'm saying, hey, we will present to you what we have. We're telling you at this particular point in time simply because all of these things come out into the field and they generate legs and generate some things that are not true at all. We want to be right up front, and since we met last Sunday, we made a commitment to let you know what we know and what we have at this particular point in time. It's distressing and challenging, but we will continue to work through. And so on the weekend of the 2nd and 3rd, we'll give you a report of our deliberations. We'd be grateful to hear from you, your own thoughts and reflections, and we continue to pray. That's been the centerpiece of our commitment to this whole process along the way, and in the words of the gospel, Lord, increase our faith.